Hey Luke, today I'll be discussing the political economy of Canada using McCann's analytical framework alongside the varieties of capitalism approach. Rather than simply describing Canada's economy, the goal here is to unpack how its institutional step, historical development, and policy choices shape the way it functions today. I'll begin by outlining the theoretical framework including McCann's key dimensions and the varieties of capitalism model. Then I'll move into Canada's institutional structure, particularly its federal governance and business environment. After that, I'll look at historical development and economic integration. And finally, I'll evaluate the strength and limitations of Canada's economic model before concluding. So let's start. First, what kind of economy is Canada? Canada is a highly developed capitalist economy that is deeply connected to global markets. At the same time, it maintains strong regulatory institutions and well-established social welfare systems. This creates an interesting mix. It is clearly market-oriented, but not purely perfect market-driven. The main argument of this presentation is that Canada operates as a regulated liberal market economy where market coordination dominates but is consistently shaped and moderated by government policy. McCann's framework. To analyze this properly, I am using McCann's framework which focuses on three interconnected dimensions. First, institutional structures. This includes how governance, legal system, and economic rules are organized. Second, historical trajectory, how past developments influence present systems. And third, state market relations, the balance between government intervention and market economy. What is important here is that McCann does not treat economies as fixed models. Instead, he reviews them as evolving systems shaped on connect. Federal governance and regional diversity. One of the defining features of Canada is a federal system. Power is divided between national and provincial governments, which creates variation across region. For example, Alberta's economy is heavily dependent on natural resources, while Ontario has more diversified industrial base. This means economic policies, labor conditions, and development strategies are not uniform across Canada. The varieties of capitalism. Now, if we apply varieties of capitalism framework, Canada is generally classified as liberal market economy. This means firms rely on competitive markets, flexible labor arrangements, and shareholder-driven governance. However, this classification is not entirely sufficient. Canada also includes features like universal healthcare and social protection, which introduce elements of coordination. So while first broadly within LME category, it clearly goes beyond a purely market-based system. Canada as a regulated LME. This brings us to a more accurate classification. Canada can be understood as a regulated liberal market economy. It obtains open markets, strong property rights, and global competitiveness. But at the same time, the government actively regulates key sectors, particularly banking, which has contributed to financial stability. Another important factor is federal complexity, where provinces control major areas like healthcare and education. The overall Canada combines market efficiency with institutional regulation. Historical evaluation. To understand how the system developed, we need to look at Canada's historical evaluation. Initially, the economy was heavily resource based, relying on industries like timber and agriculture. Over time, Canada moved through industrialism and later expanded its welfare state after World War II. A major turning point was the introduction of a free trade agreements, particularly an NAFTA and later USMCA, which increased integration with the United States. Today, Canada has shifted toward knowledge-based economy with growth in technology, finance, and services. So the system we say today is the result of a gradual transformation rather than a simple policy shift. A trade integration. Trade plays a central role in Canada's economy. Agreements like NAFTA and USMCA have strengthened economic ties with the United States. This has improved efficiency and expanded its reach to the global market. However, it has also increased exposure to external risk, particularly economic fluctuations in global markets. So while integration brings benefits, it also creates liabilities. Institutional structure. Looking at institutions, Canada provides a stable and transparent business environment. Uh, its legal approach support its investment and ensures a strong property rights. Corporate governance follows a shareholder-oriented model where financial markets play a key role. Labor markets are relatively flexible, but workers are still protected through social policies. Education and innovation are also strongly supported with collaboration between universities, governments, and industry. So overall institution in Canada balance flexibility with stability. State intervention and social policy. Another important aspect is the role of government intervention. Canada has well-developed social policies, including universities, healthcare, and social security programs. These policies aim to reduce inequality and improve living standards. They also reflect a broader commitment to balancing economic uh, performance with social well-being. So while markets remain central, the state plays a key role in shaping outcomes. Next one is banking resilience. A strong example of this balance is Canada's banking system. A strict regulation has been made system highly resilient, even through during the major financial crisis like 2008. Unlike many other countries, Canada avoided severe banking instability. This shows how effective regulation can support long-term economic stability. The next is strength of Canada. In terms of strength, Canada's model offers stability, inclusiveness, and adaptability. Strong institutions create a secure environment for investment. Social policies support equally and cohesion, and openness to trade and immigration enhances competitiveness. Additionally, decentralization allows provinces to adapt policies to local conditions. And the next is limitations and challenges of Canada. However, there are also clear challenges like regional disparities remain a major issue with uneven performance across provinces. De- Dependence on natural resource exposes the economy to global fluctuations. Federal complexity can lead to policy inefficiencies, and increasing social cost plays a pressure on government systems. So while the model is effective, it requires ongoing adjustment. So to conclude, Canada represents a regulated form of liberal capitalism where markets are central but supported by strong institutions. Using McCann's framework, we can see that this system is shaped by its institutional design, historical and development, and state market balance. By combining this with the varieties of capitalism approach, we gain a more complete understanding of how Canada operates. Overall, Canada's model has been effective in achieving both economic growth and social stability, but its future success will depend on how well it manages emerging challenges. That's all, and the next one is references. Thank you so much.